It is a pleasure to be here with you, with all of you on this evening. I'm so glad the weather held off for this great event. As Ann said, I'm Charlyn Anderson. I am the founder and executive director for Starting With Today. And Starting With Today is a nonprofit. We're based in Prince George's County and DC, where we serve Ward 7, 8 in Prince George's County within the Beltway. And our goal is really to provide a space for Black people to come and get well, stay well, promote wellness and our own liberation. What we know from community is that we all thrive together. And if this pandemic has shown us anything, it's that we need each other more than ever. And Starting With Today started in 2014 with that very goal. And we started with financial programming and career development. And then in 2018, we launched our premier program called the Shape Up. And the Shape Up is where we bring a Black mental health therapist to the Black barbershop in Southeast DC, at least barbershop. That is a community cultural hub over 3 decades. And we have really honest conversations that are hard to have, that are necessary, and that we take for granted that we can, a lot of people in this room can just call our therapist and say, hey, we're having a bad day, and get on the schedule and pay $200 an hour. But what about our community members in Ward 7, Ward 8, that is barely able to take care of themselves, their children, and their families, and don't have those access but need those resources just as much, if not more, than anyone else in this room? And so that's what we've been able to do. Even in the pandemic, we created a sister program to that as well, called My Hair Appointment. And it's a space for Black women to create, explore, and define our own well-being. When we go to the doctor's office, a lot of times, as you know, we're not heard, we're not seen. They tell us that our pain is manageable, and then we die, right? And so we have to have really honest conversations about what's happening, what language do we need to use. And so we called a Black woman OBGYN to come into our space. And so let's have conversations about things that we aren't having enough language for in our community. And so those are the type of programs that Starting With Today does. And in the midst of the pandemic, one of the first Zoom meetings I had was with Anjali, who's not here, but I feel her spirit. And it was supposed to be in person fair chance interview that was on Zoom. Needless that we didn't know it was gonna be the beginning of endless Zoom meetings forever. But immediately, Anjali created this safe space. How are things going? I don't know, Anjali. What's next? I don't know. We have a couple of programs scheduled. Our first virtual program that we pivoted with was What is COVID? And we brought a virologist in from NIH to talk about COVID and the vaccine and how viruses work. And then we brought a doctor in that was on the front lines to talk about how do we need to prioritize community health. And then from there, we created another 20 programs, and we scaled from doing 300 programs in person to 5,000 over the course of the next year virtually. Thank you. But that is a lot in part due to Fair Chance and especially Sawida. Sawida was our Fair Chance capacity building specialist who really understood the spirit of Starting With Today. And as much as I intentionally try to create safe spaces for our program participants, Sawida created a safe space for us to get really messy and really figure out what was going on with the organization, where we were headed, what our goals were, what does the next 5 years look like, what does the next 5 months look like. And we began to really work through our vision, and man, did we need her help. As my cohort member Tyree of Soul Trek knows, we had these monthly meetings where we read one of Brene Brown's book, but we talked about, trying to figure it out together, and the support that we had with Fair Chance, both from an organization standpoint and as a professional development, was more than I thought I knew I needed at the time, and has been provided this invaluable support for my own professional development, and then also moving the organization forward. And we're off to a great start. Since being able to work with Fair Chance, we've been able to already bring in more funding, more sponsors. We're still serving and scaling at an enormous rate thanks to this support. I often talk about leading a nonprofit is like trying to build a plane while you're flying it, right? And Fair Chance and Sawida were all hands on deck, willing to get in, willing to build this plane while we were mid-air with no fear, and we are ecstatic about what's to come because of this partnership for years to come. Thank you.